Good, happy Tuesday morning, September 22nd, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday morning, so let's begin. First up, let's begin with COVID-19 updates. There are 7 new positive cases of COVID-19 announced in New Hampshire, 288 active cases, 7,952 Granite Staters diagnosed total. Health officials confirmed 7 new positive cases of COVID-19 in New Hampshire on Monday. And now let's take a look at the COVID-19 in New Hampshire important information and latest data. Let's take a look at that right now. And here is a look at that information for all of you right now. There are 7,952 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. 7,046,216 number of people in the United States have tested positive. 438 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 726 number of people have been hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire, and 506 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. Now let's take a look at this current map of New Hampshire where current cases of COVID-19 are. Manchester, 37. Let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where total cases of COVID-19 are. Manchester, 2025. And now let's take a look at these 3 charts here. Let's start with the first chart. Here, new cases each day in New Hampshire. In the purple, daily new positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, new hospitalizations. And in the red are the deaths. Let's take a look at this chart here. Current cases. In the purple, total current COVID-19 cases, and in the orange, current hospitalizations. Now let's take a look at this chart here. Total cases. In the purple, total positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, total hospitalizations. Red, deaths, and blue, recovered. And now let's take a look at this chart here. Age group of cases, female and male of cases, and risk information. Now let's take a look at this chart here. Infections, hospitalizations, and deaths. Let's take a look at this chart here. Deaths, percent of New Hampshire population, race/ethnicity of cases, and hospitalizations. And a reminder, your common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, difficult breathing, chills, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. How it spreads, and prevention tips. And be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of your COVID-19 information. Nearly 30,000 Granite Staters have not claimed federal stimulus checks yet. Deadlines to claim funds approaching. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Charisse LeClaire.
Chapel Tractor has been in our family since 1955, when great-grandfather Pearlie and our grandfather George decided to sell tractors out of their barn with a work ethic geared towards customers.
So many people have not received their stimulus payments yet.
Barbara Heggie is the coordinator and staff attorney at the Low Income Taxpayer Project, a legal aid clinic for people with IRS problems. She's trying to connect Granite Staters with federal CARES Act money.
Unfortunately, a lot of people who fall into this category, who are not on the IRS radar to get the stimulus payment, don't have access to the internet.
Barbara says her office is here to help. She says if you don't receive any kind of federal income benefits, and if you have not filed a 2018 or 2019 return because you didn't have to, the best way to get your money is to go to the irs.gov website and use the non-filer tool to claim it. The deadline to do that is October 15th. If you can't do it by then, there is another option.
It's still possible to claim it on a 2020 tax return during the next filing season, even if you don't have a requirement to file a tax return. And I'm hoping that people are aware of this.
Those eligible for the full payment make less than $75,000 a year, have a Social Security number, and can't be claimed as a dependent on somebody else's tax return. If you do receive some federal income benefits and you did receive your stimulus payment but didn't get the $500 payment for qualifying children, you do have until September 30th to use the non-filer tool to claim those payments as well. We'll have all these resources listed on our website, WMUR.com. In Manchester, I'm Charisse LeClaire, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. UNH COVID-19 testing lab hailed as model for rest of country. Students tested twice each week with results often available same day. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Jennifer Crompton.
May be canceled. But Mainly Tubs' huge annual fair sale is back and bigger than ever, with hundreds of hot tubs in stock and on their way.
Senator Jean Shaheen toured the UNH COVID testing lab today, saying it's the only university in the country with this kind of program.
It is making a huge difference in terms of allowing the students to be on campus.
Transmission rates remain relatively low. Twice a week, every student is required to self-swab with test kits they're given, dropping them off in 10 locations. Each week, 25,000 tests are collected and pool sampled. Results often returned on the same day.
If the pool shows up as a potential positive, we go back to the original 4 and we figure out the individual who may be infected and bring them back here for a confirmatory test.
This unique program got some help from CARES Act funding, $5 million to get it up and running this summer. Innovation began in May with a commitment to staying open and to testing on campus, stockpiling supplies over the summer ahead of the curve in many ways.
I think as the year goes on, you'll see more universities doing what we're doing here. We're getting phone calls from around the country about wanting to know how we pulled off what we did. So I think this is world class.
Senator Shaheen says it's not a stretch to imagine this level of testing in all schools, including K through 12, and throughout communities.
This is a great model that I'm going to be talking about in Washington as we're talking about what we need to do to ensure that the testing can get done across the country.
Whether a second round of assistance will happen and what it will look like is still being debated in Washington. In Durham, Jennifer Crompton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Medical providers see patients in cars online aimed ongoing pandemic. Doctors, nurses seek new ways to bring healthcare to patients. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Amy Cavino.
fairs may be canceled, but Mainly Tub's huge annual fair sale is back and bigger than ever. With hundreds of hot tubs in stock and on their way,
We're drawing blood out here, we're doing breathing tests, we're testing for flu, and we're giving them flu shots as well.
It's a new normal for physicians and nurses, healing without touch, assessing over the internet, or in some cases, a phone line.
Before COVID, we had not done a single telehealth visit in any of our systems, and we rapidly flipped from doing 0 to doing hundreds a day.
Sophie woke up with a cough. No fever, according to her mom, but one symptom is enough to keep her out of the classroom. It will take a doctor's note to be cleared.
So that we can keep people out of our office who are sick, but make sure that they're getting the care that they need from their primary care provider who knows them.
This all-female medical practice has been doing in-car visits since March 15th. At peak, they were doing 8 to 12 COVID tests a day. Now they're at 6 or 7.
My patients have been so thankful. This is just us being inventive and trying to meet the needs of the patients where they're at.
Along the seacoast, telehealth is expanding access for patients, but many physicians believe technology cannot replace the human touch.
While there's a lot that we can do in telehealth, there's a lot that we can't. And medicine remains a high-touch field where the laying out of hands is therapeutic and also diagnostic.
This practice has seen more than 700 patients using this method, and the doctor says they plan to continue through the winter or until a vaccine is widely available. In Amherst, Amy Cavino, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. State begins delivering hundreds of thousands of absentee ballots to city town clerks. Secretary of State's office says voters who required absentee ballots will receive them soon. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Transformative, inspirational. The opportunities you come across is really just going to grow who you are as a person, and you learn from.
Absentee ballots for the general election are on their way to cities and towns in New Hampshire. The Secretary of State's office announced that 3 truckloads of ballots rolled out on Monday.
We expect to have all of the absentee ballots delivered to the cities and towns by Friday. Obviously, there are going to be quite a few city and town clerks that receive ballots tomorrow. And once they're received, they can proceed to ship them out to voters.
Deputy Secretary of State David Scanlon says roughly 250,000 absentee ballots were shipped out on Monday. President Trump even alerted New Hampshire voters on Twitter, reminding Granite Staters that absentee ballots are safe and secure. Scanlon says this is by far the earliest the ballots have ever been sent.
In a normal non-COVID year, we would try and have the absentee ballots delivered to the city and town clerks at least 30 days before the general election.
Within the last week, at least 2 federal judges have ruled that the Postal Service will be required to treat all election mail as first class or priority to ensure that absentee and mail-in ballots are processed on time. Scanlon says New Hampshire post offices handled the primary election just fine and doesn't foresee any issues. He does suggest, however, if you need an absentee ballot, request one from your town clerk, and once you get it, don't procrastinate.
When you get it, mark it, put it in the affidavit envelope, sign it, and get it back in the mail or hand deliver it to your clerk. That way you guarantee yourself that your absentee ballot will be received in plenty of time to be counted.
Jason King, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. New Hampshire forming battleground state for presidential election. Candidates, surgeons pouring into state. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Tim Callery.
The fairs may be Tubs' huge annual fair sale is back and bigger than ever, with hundreds of hot tubs in stock and...
New Hampshire is absolutely a battleground state.
Political analyst Scott Spradling says New Hampshire may only offer 4 electoral votes, but those votes will matter.
Remember, back in 2016, in Trump versus Clinton, there were only about 3,000 votes separating the two, over 700,000 that were cast. So Donald Trump is looking at New Hampshire as a pickup state in the now battleground fight for probably a handful of states that will determine the election.
Spradling adds, in order to take the ticket, the candidates need to do whatever they can to get their supporters to the polls.
I think this is really turning into a campaign of enthusiasm. Whichever base is more excited about November will probably turn out the numbers. Because I think at this point in our American politics, there can't be too many undecided New Hampshire voters.
And both sides say they'll do just that.
We think that the message of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris about whether preserving women's reproductive rights or health care or any of the other issues that are on the ballot this year, essentially, with this presidential race, will guarantee a good vote here in New Hampshire.
The amount of support and the ground game that we have, I have been in this for 20 years. I've never seen as extensive a ground game as we have this time around. Just last week, we knocked 48,000 doors.
And Spradling adds, don't be surprised if we see more visits from President Trump and Vice President Joe Biden between now and November. Reporting in Manchester, I'm Tim Callery, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Man from Keene reported missing after not showing up for work. He has not been seen since Saturday. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
The fairs may be canceled, but Mainly Tubs' huge annual fair sale is back and bigger than ever, with hundreds of hot tubs in stock and on their way. We can guarantee the largest selection of hot tubs in New...
State police looking for a missing 25-year-old man from Keene. Police say that Jonathan Armoralt was reported missing after he failed to show up for work in Jaffrey. His family hasn't heard from him since Saturday. He may be driving a gray Subaru Impreza with New Hampshire plates. Anyone with information asked to contact state police.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.